Hello, I'm Emily. It's Christmas, and Christmas is a time for stories. Here's one I wrote with Craig, and he's going to read it to you now. So sit down, snuggle up and listen. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Hello everyone. Welcome to my living room. I'm Craig Barr-Green and I write stories. And today I have a brand new special Christmas story just for you. And it's called A Very Piggy Christmas. I hope you enjoy it. Milo's mum and dad were flying around the house in a terrible rush, frantically packing the last bits and pieces for the family Christmas holiday. The big train from London to Cornwall was due to leave in 1 hour, and they weren't at all ready. Christmas was just 2 days away. If they didn't leave soon, they would miss the train. But Milo didn't mind this one bit. He didn't want to go to Cornwall for Christmas. He wanted to stay at home. So he was sitting under the living room table, trying to hide. The room was full of bags of wrapped presents for Christmas Day. It seemed like a lot of stuff for one holiday, even if it was Christmas. Milo had packed his starry backpack the night before. He had his 2 best books and a big jumper. Most importantly though, he had Piggy. Piggy was a sparkly-eyed, cuddly little pink pig. His auntie had given it to him when he was born. Piggy went everywhere with Milo. So they were going to be staying with Milo's family. There was Granny and Uncle Nigel and Milo's cousins Daisy and Bluebell. Milo loved Daisy and Bluebell, who were a bit older than him and very funny. There was Auntie Sammy. She was nice too. But then there was her baby Rosie. Milo didn't like babies. They cried and they dribbled and their nappies smelled bad. Milo was 6 now, much bigger than a silly baby. Mum said Rosie wasn't a baby anymore. She's a toddler now, she said. Apparently she's quite a character. Milo thought that sounded a bit worrying. There were going to be too many people at Christmas, which meant it was going to be busy and noisy. And what if his bed was horrible? And what if the family asked him lots of questions? He didn't like questions. And what if he didn't like the food? Let's hide here, Piggy, whispered Milo. A car beeped its horn outside. Beep! That's the taxi again, said Mum from somewhere in the living room. I know, said Dad. It's the first time he's honked that horn. Beep! Sounded the horn again. Oh, and that's the 4th, said Mum. Have you got the train tickets? Dad patted his pocket. Yes, I'm sure they're in here. Milo clutched Piggy tightly. He held his breath and closed his eyes. If he just kept completely still, he might get away with it. He opened one eye. Oh, Mum's face was right there. She'd found him. Come on, Milo monster. Let's get in the taxi. Okay, said Milo. Dad sat in the front. Milo sat in the back seat on his travel car seat next to Mum, and he held her hand. He put Piggy on his shoulder so Piggy could see what was happening. Oh, well, this was it. The Christmas holiday had begun. 5 days in Cornwall, right by the sea. Oh, Milo felt the butterflies flutter in his tummy. So, you off on your holidays then, son? Said the taxi driver, looking into his mirror. Oh no, he was talking to Milo. Milo nodded. To Cornwall, I hear. Milo nodded again. Oh, he felt hot and itchy. Oh, Cornwall. Oh, that's a lovely place, that is. Clean air, smashing beaches. Oh, I ain't been to Cornwall for years. We're staying with our family for Christmas, said Milo's dad. 10 of us, all under one roof. 10? Ha! Oh my days, that's something. Well, Christmas with your family is what makes Christmas Christmas, ain't it? That's what I've always said. And may I also add, the driver looked at Milo again in his mirror. That is a rather handsome looking pig on your shoulder. Oh, it's got lovely sparkly eyes. Has it got a name? Milo nodded, but no words came out. It all went a bit quiet in the taxi. Milo really didn't like talking even about Piggy. It's called Piggy, said Dad. Oh, lovely, said the driver. The traffic was bad, and they were in the taxi for what felt like years and years, and Dad was checking his watch over and over. When they finally arrived at Paddington, they were ready to dash. Milo could hear the hissing and the roars of the trains from inside the station. They sounded like giant lions and snakes in the jungle. Mum and Dad grabbed bags and suitcases. Stay close to me, Milo monster, said Mum. We will need to run. And they did, into the station. There were people everywhere. Milo hung onto his mum with one hand and Piggy with the other. There were legs and bags and cases. It smelled of food and smoke and all kinds of weirdness. Crash! A big papery shopping bag swung into Milo. It didn't hurt, but it made him jump. That's our train, shouted Mum. The train was so big, Milo couldn't even see the end of it. Dad ran on ahead. Milo squeezed Piggy. He was so scared there was too much happening. He felt a tug, like someone had suddenly put the brakes on. His starry backpack was pulling on his shoulders. He stopped. Ooh, blimey, you lot don't half run fast. It was Pete, the taxi driver. Your donut husband left this in my cab. It was the envelope full of tickets. Oh my goodness, yelled Mum. She dropped the suitcase and hugged the driver. Milo squeezed Piggy. Dad came back with the pale face. Don't freak out, darling, but I think I left the tickets at home and... why are you hugging that man? Mum laughed. This brilliant man found our tickets and chased after us. He saved Christmas. Thank you, she said. Well, the driver looked pretty pleased with himself. Well, I won't go that far, but you are welcome. How can we pay you back, said Dad. You can catch the train for a starter, you donut, said the driver. It's Christmas, ain't it? So how about you pay me back by doing something nice? Oh, and say hello to the sea from me. I do miss it. What's your name? Said Mum. Pete Christmas, said the driver. You're kidding, said Dad. Of course I'm kidding. My name's Pete Dickens. Now catch that train before you give me a heart attack. Go on. And they dashed. Milo clung onto Piggy. They made the train with seconds to spare. The family were waiting for them at the station. Everyone was there, even Rosie. Ugh. But she was high up on Uncle Nigel's shoulders, so she was out the way at least. She looked down at Milo and waved with both her little hands. He stepped away. He wasn't sure about her at all. There were hugs, but Milo managed to avoid most of them. When they got to Daisy and Bluebell's house, lots of things went very well for Milo. 1. He had a special bed next to Mum and Dad's in the spare room. It had a duvet cover with stars on it. 2. His Uncle Nigel had built him a little tent behind the sofa, so when things got too noisy, he could sit in there and read a book. It was nice to listen to everyone talking. 3. There was a huge Christmas tree with a very special magical star on top. And 4, best of all, his granny said that she had a special Christmas dinner planned just for him. Turkey sandwiches with no butter and a bowl of roast potatoes with no gravy. Yes! Milo was having a lovely time. It was just what he wanted. One thing, though, was a problem. Rosie thought Milo was brilliant, and she wouldn't leave him alone. She cried when she couldn't see him. She wasn't very good at talking, but she said, "I want Milo," and everyone thought she was so clever. At dinner time, Auntie Sammy was trying to get her to eat a carrot. "Yucky carrot," ugh, shouted Rosie, and she threw it on the floor. "But normally you like carrots," said Auntie Sam, who looked very tired. "Yucky carrots." Auntie Sam looked at Milo. "Can you try, darling?" Milo didn't want to, but he picked up a carrot and he held it out, standing as far away from her as he could. "Carrot, Rosie," he said. Rosie grabbed it and ate it all up. Then she said, "Want Milo? Want Piggy?" "Piggy's mine," he told her, and that made her cry. But Piggy was his. The next day was Christmas Eve, and they went to Truro to go to the Christmas market and a cafe. And then Gran and Auntie Sammy were taking all the children to the pantomime. Milo liked some things. 1, the Christmas lights. 2, the shop windows. Everything was so Christmassy. 3, the seagulls that watched people eating pasties and hot dogs, waiting to swoop. He showed it all to Piggy, and Piggy liked it too. "I can't wait to see Cinderella," said Auntie Sammy. "Pantos are my #1 favourite thing in all the world." Milo nodded. He'd never seen one, but he was a bit nervous about it. He thought it might be very busy and noisy, and that the seats might get a bit scratchy. Before the panto, they went to a cafe. Milo put Piggy on the table so he could use both hands for his hot chocolate and his mince pie. Rosie stretched out and grabbed Piggy and pushed Piggy's face down into her juice. Ugh. And both Milo and Rosie cried. "Oh, Rosie," said Aunt Sammy. "Piggy belongs to Milo. Give it back." She gave Rosie a book. Rosie threw it to the ground so hard that it bounced. Twice. "Yucky book," she said. Daisy gave Rosie a cuddly puffin. Rosie threw this to the ground. "Yucky puffy," she said. Bluebell gave her a bear. Rosie bent her arm back and threw it so hard it bounced off the window and landed in someone's coffee. The whole cafe turned and looked. They looked even more when Rosie screamed, "Yucky bear! I want Piggy!" And then really did cry rather loudly. She said, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." She just couldn't stop crying. Bluebell tried to dab her bear with a napkin. Milo was trying to get the orange juice off Piggy. He just really wanted to go home. Later, they were in the theatre. It was massive and full of people. But that didn't matter because the pantomime was so funny. It really did make Milo cheer up. He sat between Granny and Daisy and they laughed and clapped and sang along with the songs. At the end, Granny stood up and danced in the aisle. So Milo, Daisy and Bluebell did too. And soon Milo was having the best time ever. He even forgot to show Piggy the stage. He didn't realise until later that Rosie and Auntie Sammy hadn't seen the show at all, because Rosie was still too upset. When he met them outside, Rosie was fast asleep in her pushchair. She did look cute like that, in a bobble hat. thought Milo. But Milo did feel bad. He felt sad for Auntie Sammy. She'd really wanted to see the show more than anyone. He felt bad for Rosie because when she got upset, she just never managed to calm down. Not until she fell asleep. Maybe this wasn't her fault. When Milo felt bad, it was always Piggy that cheered him up. This made him think a bit. Well, the next day was Christmas. Actual Christmas Day. When Milo woke up, Mum and Dad were fast asleep. He sat up in bed and gazed at his stocking laying on the edge of the starry duvet. Ho, 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 ho. Look, Piggy, he whispered, Father Christmas has been. He looked at the presents. There were the books he'd wanted. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Yes. And there was a skipping rope. Ooh, he said, excellent. And there was a lot of chocolate. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, he couldn't stop smiling. He threw on a jumper and he picked up his selection box and he tiptoed out of the room. He was going to go downstairs, go into his tent and eat the chocolate. Granny was already there. She was standing at the window. Morning, Milo. Merry Christmas, she whispered. And when Milo went over, he saw there was a huge rainbow in the sky outside. It was raining and sunny at the same time. Oh, look at it. A minute ago it was hailing, and then it turned to rain, and then the sun came out, and the rainbow appeared right in front of me. It's a little bit of Christmas magic just for us. Hey, Milo? See? The ice is still on the ground. Can we go outside? Said Milo. So Milo and Granny put on their coats and boots and went outside to stamp on the crunchy ice. Milo had Piggy in his pocket, but he forgot to show her the rainbow. The rain soaked through his hair, but he didn't care. Rosie started today being very happy. She ate her breakfast and shouted, "Happy Christmas!" at everyone. And then she ran around and tried to grab Piggy so many times that in the end, Milo put Piggy away. Rosie ran around more and more and more and more and more, and she started to shout and laugh, and even Milo agreed she was being really funny. But she didn't stop. Everyone told her to calm down, but she didn't listen. In the end, she fell over and hit her head on the edge of the table, and there was a lump, and she cried a lot. Milo looked at where he'd hidden Piggy. He looked at Rosie. It was nearly lunchtime when they opened their presents. Rosie wasn't managing to cheer up, and she didn't want anything. Milo loved his presents, and he loved sitting with Daisy and Bluebell. But he was feeling a bit bad. Rosie kept looking at him with big, sad eyes. She'd stopped crying now. She was just leaning on a cushion. When no one was looking, he found Piggy and slipped out of the room. He couldn't see any wrapping paper, but there was some newspaper in the recycling. He couldn't see sellotape, but he could see some thick brown tape. He did the best he could. When Milo came back into the room, Granny had Rosie on her lap, and she was trying to cheer her up. "She doesn't understand," said Granny. Milo thought he understood. He knelt down next to Rosie. "Here you go, Rosie," he said. He gave her the package. "One more present for you. Happy Christmas." Rosie went to throw it on the floor. "Yucky Christmas," she said. "No, yucky," said Milo. Happy, really happy. Do you need to open? I promise. Nice. Everyone looked at Milo. Milo looked at Rosie. Rosie smiled a tiny bit. Milo smiled back. Milo, Mum said, is that? Dad said, Milo? The package looked a bit rubbish. But it didn't matter. Rosie pulled open the paper and she screamed. But this time she was screaming with laughter. Piggy! She shouted. My Piggy! She put her arms around Milo's neck and gave him the stickiest, sloppiest kiss he had ever had. And then now Milo hates sticky, sloppy kisses. But this case, he didn't mind. And Rosie didn't mind when he scrubbed his face with his sleeve afterwards. Love you, Milo, she said. Well, just make sure you look after her, he said. She's a really special pig. She'll help keep you calm when you're feeling a bit cross. Rosie shook her head. Not cross. Rosie really was the happiest little toddler in the world. Oh, Milo, said Mum. And Granny wiped a tear from her eye when she thought no one was looking. It was strange not having Piggy in his pocket. But Milo knew it would be all right. He was the only one with the power to cheer Rosie up on Christmas Day and make it happy for everyone. He had done it, and it made him feel like a superhero. After lunch, they all went down to the beach. It had stopped raining now. The sun was shining. The sea was flat and calm, glittering in the sunlight. Milo remembered something. He pulled on Dad's sleeve. We have to say hello to the sea, he said. From Pete Dickens, the taxi man. Taxi man, said Rosie, who would now only walk next to Milo and who had Piggy clenched in her hand. They all waved at the horizon and shouted, Hello, sea, from Pete the taxi man. Milo remembered that Pete was funny, and he remembered something he'd said. He added, and Pete says, Dad's a donut. Rosie loved that. She said, Dad's a donut, Dad's a donut, over and over and over again, until, to be fair, both dads did look a bit annoyed. As they walked home, Uncle Nigel put Rosie on his shoulders and Daisy and Bluebell walked with Milo. That was a cool thing you did, said Bluebell. Yeah, do you want to come and play hide and seek when we get back, said Daisy. Just us, the big kids. Plus our dad. We have excellent hiding places. Yes, please, said Milo. I really do want to do that. This was turning out to be the best Christmas ever. And that's the end of the story. I'd like to wish you a very piggy Christmas. Bye-bye, take care.